Hey, 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 welcome to AAA Wednesday, which is my weekly Q&A session where I dip into the comments and respond to your questions about the publishing industry and writing a better story. It's my small way of giving back and saying thank you so much to my amazing community of subscribers. I am so excited to bring you so much more content and answers in 2024. So thank you for being with me. Just a couple of pieces of housekeeping before we dive in. Number one, if you've been here before, you know the drill. Please hit that thumbs up button. It is a really tiny thing that helps out my channel a lot, and I really appreciate it. Number two, if you're new here or you haven't yet subscribed, I would highly consider it. Every week, in addition to these Q&As, I also do weekly deep dives either into a specific element of writing or I talk about the publishing industry because that is my background as a developmental book editor. So if any of that interests you, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Without further ado, let's dive into the first question today. Traditional publishing is first and foremost a business, which means that ultimately your book is a product that should appeal to as many people as possible. If an author doesn't want to change certain narrative choices, even though they would entice a larger audience, let's say they don't want to include romance in a YA book because they think it would muddle the story, doesn't mean they are better suited for self-publishing than the traditional route. I'm a huge advocate for staying true to your vision for your story. And as a developmental editor, when I provide suggestions to my clients on how to improve their story and make their manuscript stronger, I always give the caveat that they should only move forward with suggestions if they resonate with them, and if those suggestions actually serve the broader vision that the author has for the book. I'm only interested in helping authors achieve their vision for their story, not compromising what they intended for the story to be. And I would hope that your literary agent or anyone you work with at a publishing house would share that same philosophy. When I worked in the industry, personally, I never came up against a situation in which we were pushing for an author to make a change to make their book more mainstream or more commercially appealing, and they didn't want to make that change. There are a couple things that went into this. Number one, we realized that we had the same goal, which is, as you said, to sell the most books possible and get this story in as many readers' hands as possible. So because we had that shared goal, all of our editorial conversations were already aligned to that. But more importantly, the second thing is that we also shared the same vision for the book. Whenever a literary agent signs you, and then whenever you get a publishing house to offer you a book deal, that means that they see a lot of potential in your story and they really like it for what it is and what you're trying to do. That's why I think it's rather rare for there to be a situation in which an author would sign with an agent or publisher, and then people on the publishing side would ask them to make major changes to make it more commercial, because they've already bought into your story and they already see a lot of value in it. So just because there are aspects of your book that maybe aren't typical for your genre or maybe aren't the most mainstream, I don't think that excludes you from traditional publishing. There very well may be a broad audience for this story, and there very well may be a literary agent and a publisher who sees a ton of potential in what you've created. So if traditional publishing is a goal of yours, I would go ahead and send queries and see what happens. Self-publishing is always an option down the line, but there's no reason to not even try for traditional publishing because of a fear that your book isn't mainstream enough for them. If you're enjoying my YouTube content, I have some exciting news. I have so much more content available on my newsletter site, chapter-break.com. I'm really trying to build this out to become another hub of writing and publishing insights in addition to this channel. I'm conducting interviews with publishing industry insiders and best-selling authors, so I don't want you to miss out on all of their amazing tips. And I'm starting a deep dive series where I give my insights from my developmental book editing background. As a freebie for just signing up to my newsletter, you will get my story self-assessment worksheet, and this is a resource I created specially for my YouTube community if you are feeling stuck in your current draft and don't really know where to take it from here. It's going to help you identify what you're doing really well as what you can target to improve on the next draft. The links to download my free story self-assessment worksheet and check out my newsletter are in the description below. Here's the next question. My question is, if I self-published a book 18 years ago without success due to my lack of experience, can I attempt to query an agent now to traditionally publish after changing my pen name, book title, and even virtually rewritten the book in its entirety? Or would I be stuck sending my revision to the previous publisher? I own the rights to my book per the inside page, if that helps. Because you do own the rights to this book, as you said, and because you mentioned that it has been virtually rewritten since it was previously published 18 years ago, I do think it would be possible to query literary agents with this manuscript. It becomes tricky to query previously self-published books if the material you are submitting to a literary agent is basically the same and is unchanged from the book that was published already. Typically, literary agents and publishers are interested in only works that have been previously unpublished. There are some exceptions, such as if you self-publish a book and it is very successful, then publishers might be interested in publishing a new edition of it because, of course, they want a piece of the pie. But in other cases, it is typically best to present literary agents either completely new material or, situations like yours, material that has been very significantly rewritten such that it's almost an entirely different book from the one that you published. We have time for one more question today. This guy on Twitter said he got 316 rejections, only 9 full requests. They said he was too literary and too much info dumping. He says he is just misunderstood. I would think that's a project that needs to be redone, but is he just niche market? His rejection says that he is really talented, but it's not the project for them. It's admittedly hard to evaluate this situation without knowing exactly what the book was that this author was querying, how they were pitching it, and the types of rejections that they were getting, what literary agents were actually saying after they read the full manuscript. But in general, it is possible that you get full requests and passes on all of them. Even though that sounds super, super disappointing, it's actually not necessarily a bad place to be as a querying author, because you now have several agents who were interested enough in your writing and your pitch to ask for the full manuscript. And even though they didn't think that the entire book held up for whatever reason, they still liked you as an author and were seriously considering representing you. That means that if you either heavily revise this manuscript in accordance with some of the feedback that you got from agents, or if you write a new manuscript entirely, you already kind of have an in with those agents who requested the full manuscript last time. There are plenty of cases where a rejection on a full manuscript actually led to an author getting representation with that agent on a future manuscript. After all, that agent already has basically validated that they like your writing. So if you're in this situation where you feel like you've exhausted everyone you can query on this particular project, consider either significantly revising the manuscript if you are still passionate about it, or sending those agents your next draft and see if maybe that one resonates with them better. Maybe it's the case that your next manuscript actually has a stronger commercial market fit than the first one did. That's all we had time for today. And if you have a question you'd like to ask, drop it in the comments here and it will be added to my queue as I film my next session. Before you head out, don't forget to grab your free story self-assessment worksheet and check out my newsletter. The links are in the description below. Hit that thumbs up button if you are enjoying these Q&As and subscribe to join our amazing community if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching and happy writing.